I hope you're well. My name's Tommy Luce and I'm a musician, primarily guitar player, based in England in the UK, over in the East. That's my East anyway, your East would be, depends, doesn't matter. Anyway, this is something that I've been cooking up for ages now and just not pulled my finger out with, and hopefully now this can be of some use to some people. So, theory, musical understanding, whatever you want to call it. It's a big subject and it's one that frightens a lot of us guitar players, and for good reason. There's all sorts of stuff to know and it can be really hard, I think, knowing where to even begin. My experience with reading music and theory is maybe a little different to some guitar players. I started playing the piano when I was about 4 or 5 or thereabouts, and then started taking grades on it when I was about 7. So I had to learn how to read the music, the little black dots, if you will, and we will. Then when I was 11 or 12, I decided I didn't want any mates, so I started to learn to play the tuba. Lucky me, I love it really, and it will be featuring in some videos fairly soon. Then when I was 13, I discovered Iron Maiden and instantly wanted to learn to play the electric guitar. We didn't have an electric guitar at home, but we did have a classical guitar, and my dad had been a classical guitar teacher for 30 odd years by that point, so he showed me some chords and I got going. Now tab, obviously our trusty number system, was very alien to me. I didn't really know what it meant. I was only used to playing from the little black dots, doing this. It's like I'm diving. I couldn't really figure out what it was all about. Gradually in time, I started to learn more and more about tab, and of course this was 20 years ago, back in 2000, so videos were available here and there, but there certainly wasn't any YouTube. It was more VHS back in those days, and of course books and that kind of thing. So I'm very fortunate in that I always, well, not always, not from birth, but from when I started getting involved in music from a very young age, I knew what notation was and I understood theory to a degree because I'd always had to do it. And for that reason, I've never found music theory as much of a stumbling block as much as I would have done if I hadn't started playing the piano first. Definitely, and huge credit goes to my dad for showing me the guitar, and obviously to my mum as well for showing me how to play the piano. And I thought I would start off this series called Theory Thugs, hopefully very apt. You'll all be theory thugs in time, and hopefully I will as well. I wanted to start off from the very, very beginning today and show you what I think is the most important thing to learn when it comes to music theory. This is not tremendously exciting, this is not tremendously in-depth, this is far from detailed, this is far from a lot to remember, and it might seem a bit daft. Really selling it, aren't I? And this is not an overly sophisticated video. I've only very recently learned how to do a bit of video and a bit of audio. I'm learning from friends and family and from YouTube and getting things wrong, essentially, and I'm having fun doing it. Hopefully it will gradually look slicker. And that's slicker, apparently. So the very first thing you need to do is not learn the notes of the fretboard, in terms of where they are on the stave. You don't need to learn what the stave is, you don't need to learn what a key is, you don't need to learn any complicated words like pentatonic or diatonic. You might know those already, but you don't need to learn how to draw notes, you don't need to learn values, you don't need to learn rest lengths, don't learn any of that to begin with. Obviously you'll need to learn all that as you go along, but here is the first thing that I suggest you learn, in my humble opinion, and it is a humble one, and it is an opinion. This, make sure you can see that there. This is a rectangle. Get yourself a piece of paper and draw a rectangle on it. After you've done that, take that very same rectangle and cut it in half. After you've done that, you can do this all on the same piece of paper. I was very wasteful with paper and did it on 6 or 7 different bits. But there you go, life in the fast lane. Cut those bits in half again. You see what we're doing here? So many bits of paper. Hopefully you can see a pattern forming here. So you cut those bits in half yet again. Getting a bit tedious now, isn't it? But do stay with me, we're getting there. Wherever there is, we're getting there. Cut them all in half again. This is what you should have so far. You should have 16 bars. 16 rectangles. Then the next thing you need to do, go through and label it up with letter names. So on this side here, start with C. C, D, E, F, G. Then when you get to G, start from A again and go all the way through to G, and then go from A again. You see where I'm going with this. Then the final sheet, wasn't that a tense minute or two, should look like this. Now here's the bit that I suggest you put in at the bottom as well. You need to put the black notes in. Now, there are no black notes between B and C, and there are no black notes between E and F. Okay? Because everything's fine. There you go. That's it. That's all you need to do to begin with. Now, I know this doesn't mean you can read music yet. I know this doesn't mean you can read theory yet, or understand theory yet, or apply it to anything. But trust me, this is going to be really, really helpful. I've taught hundreds of people over the years, genuinely, and 9/10 of the time, people will come along for lessons, and a couple of months down the line, once I've shown them how to do this and related guitar to the piano or keyboard, whatever you prefer to call it, there is a difference. We're not going to go into that now. So often people will say, oh, well, I had piano lessons when I was 8 or 9 and I can kind of see how this works now. It's a very visually, logically laid out instrument, whereas with guitar, you can change the tuning of the strings, you can have different numbers of strings. I realise you can change the tuning of the piano as well, but you have to physically pretty much dismantle the instrument to do it. So we're going to say that we're not going to be detuning pianos, okay? None of that nonsense here. None of it. So that's all you need to do, okay? So draw out that keyboard, draw out that piano, whatever you want to call it, and let's get learning. Going to have some more soon, and I appreciate that is a very brief starter today, but as I've promised you many times, I promise a lot, don't I? Just be careful with that. This is a really good starting point, I think. So, any ideas for any topics that you want covered as we go along, stick them in the comments. If you do want to do the old subscriber-rooney thing, that'd be wonderful. No pressure, obviously. But thanks in advance if you're going to, or if you already have done. And yeah, I look forward to getting it down and moderately dirty with some theory with all of you very, very soon. There'll be some more videos up over the coming weeks, and I hope some of this is helpful. I'll catch you very soon, and remember, don't practice too much. You'll only get better. Cheers.